My name is Bibi and I'm 32. Let me start off this story time by saying I'm super grateful for this platform because what I'm about to share is something I've kept under wraps for way too long. You see, everything remains anonymous here and I need that because revealing this story might put me in some serious trouble. But I just had to vent. And part of me feels like my story might be able to help someone. So here goes. As you have probably seen from the title, it turns out I dodged a massive bullet when I decided not to marry my fiancé, Miguel. And it all boils down to one person, my mother-in-law, Judith. I know that these stories tend to be a bit more on the anti-mother-in-law hate train, but let me tell you, if this woman did not treat me like complete garbage, I don't know where I would be in this life. And I am grateful for everything she did for me. Okay, enough sappiness. Let me get into it. At first, things were all sunshine and rainbows between Judith, my mother-in-law, and me when I was dating her son, Miguel. She was the sweetest thing and always so kind to me. It felt like I'd hit the jackpot with the perfect future mother-in-law. She was always assuring me of her love for me, telling me I was like the daughter she never had. She has 8 sons, woof. And to be fair, she was like a second mother to me, considering I wasn't all too close with mine at all. It seemed like everything was going pretty smoothly on my end. I had a rich boyfriend who loved me to bits and an equally caring mother-in-law. What more could a girl ask for? Like I said, things were swell, until they weren't. You see, Miguel had proposed to me after dating for several months, and guess where? Madison Square Garden, no less. I mean, it was epic, and I thought we were on top of the world. We were surrounded by all our friends and family, and I noticed when I was scanning the crowd that Judith looked weird. She wasn't smiling and cheering like the others. Instead, she looked sad, almost bewildered. And I don't know why. I thought that maybe she had a tummy bug, or maybe she just got a bad text or something. Whatever. I was trying to enjoy the moment, so I went back to being present with my new fiancé. Even though I chalked up my mother-in-law's weirdness to other factors when I had approached her a couple of days ago, after settling down into fiancé life, she was still acting odd. But even worse this time because it was laced with rudeness too. What the frick? She became distant and a bit snarky. She was treating me like I was some annoying, dirty kid that no one wanted to play with at the playground, and I just didn't get it. Considering the week before we were chums, what gives? Why was she seemingly mad that I was now her son's fiancé? It was weird. I mean, who wouldn't want to share the joy of their son's proposal? But the way things went down, it was like a switch flipped in her, and our relationship took a nosedive, and I didn't know what I could do about it. As any fiancé would, I told Miguel about what was going on because I wanted to get to the bottom of this nonsense. Are you sure about this, babe? My mom is literally in love with you. She's always been so kind and warm to you. Why would she treat you like this out of the blue? That's what's beating me, babe. I just don't get it. I was meant to go to her place to bake some cookies for that charity drive I told you about. But she cancelled on me, saying that she'd rather do everything herself. Interesting. Interesting? I just mean it's a bit strange. She used to be so sweet and we got along so well. But recently she's been so distant and a little rude. I really can't put my finger on it. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Thanks, babe. I just miss the days when we all got along so well. It's been a bit uncomfortable lately. A couple of days passed, and just when I thought things might be getting back to normal, I started receiving anonymous texts from someone. All the text ever said was, "Leave that man if you know what's good for you." Creepy, right? Of course, I blocked the number, but then I'd get another text from a new unknown number saying the same thing. And then another, and then another. It was freaking me out big time. I wanted to immediately tell Miguel about it, obviously, so I made my way down to the kitchen, which is where he was at 11 p.m. for some reason. But something stopped me dead in my tracks. I was about to find him in the kitchen, and that's when I overheard him speaking on the phone. Miguel was talking in Spanish, which I didn't understand. But then I heard him say my name, and eventually I heard him say, "She can't ever find out, that's why I'm marrying her." What the heck? I couldn't make heads or tails of whatever the hell he was saying. What was he hiding from me and why? It pissed me off that he might be keeping secrets from me. It gave me a really bad feeling and I didn't like it one bit. So you know what I did? In my pettiness, I decided to keep those mysterious text messages a secret from my fiancé, since it seemed like he had his own secrets to hide. So the next day, I couldn't help but be a bit cold and standoffish towards Miguel, considering what I had overheard last night. I was hoping he would notice my mood and decide to tell me whatever he was hiding. But in typical male fashion, he seemed pretty oblivious. He was genuinely confused by my behavior, wondering what was going on. He had asked me multiple times, and in typical female fashion, I said nothing and proceeded to act snotty and petty. Eventually, Miguel, in an attempt to make things right, decided that it would be best if me and Judith rekindled our bond and squashed whatever beef was going on between us, since it was clearly affecting my mood. I was opposed to the idea, obviously, but before I could say anything, Miguel had already texted his mother, telling her to come over and saying it was important. Not long after, Judith arrived, and when she saw me, her expression looked like she'd seen a ghost. It was as if she was so scared of me, and I couldn't understand why. But then, in a flash, Judith's fear quickly turned to anger, and she started mistreating me, saying all sorts of awful things. She went as far as telling me that I didn't deserve to marry Miguel. Miguel finally yelled at his mother and told her to stop, and Judith immediately shut up. You might be wondering why Miguel's head wasn't put on a pike immediately after yelling at his mother like that, but let me tell you, things were a bit different in the Isaac household. Let me give you the lowdown on Miguel's family dynamics. You see, he came from a pretty traditional Spanish family where women were always considered second-class citizens, even to a 5-year-old son. It was like having sons was the holy grail or something. So Miguel, talking to his mother that way was, well, just the way things were in his family. Women weren't respected, which was very sad. This isn't me saying that all traditional Spanish-speaking households are like this. Rather, there are some old practices in certain traditional families that need to be cut out. Please don't cancel me. I didn't like it one bit, and I'd often reprimand him for being so crass towards his mother, but Miguel would just tell me that I'd never understand their relationship dynamic, and he would go on being rude. In instances like this, when Miguel would yell at Judith in front of me, I would always stand up for my mother-in-law. Maybe that was the reason why we got along so well. But this time, I didn't stand up for her. I know it was a rotten thing to do. I was angry, confused, and hurt by the way Judith had treated me in the past weeks, so I decided to get my lick back a little. But it didn't make me feel good, not one bit, even though she was doing me so dirty and treating me like a fake friend. Judith looked like she wanted to cry, so she mumbled an excuse about needing water and hurried to the kitchen. Feeling bad at this point, I rushed after her, putting my pride aside, because I still genuinely cared for Judith. This was also a good opportunity to corner her and get to the bottom of why she was treating me like a cockroach when I was supposed to be her future daughter-in-law. "Judith, can we talk for a minute? Are you okay?" "Why are you here?" "I live here. Stop being so rude to me. What the hell is wrong with you?" "What do you want, child?" "I need to know why you've been treating me so rudely lately, and why you never congratulated me on the engagement. It's almost like you hate me now." "Oh, get over yourself, Bibi. I don't hate you. I just don't care for you. You're not important, and you're not good enough for my son. You should just leave while you still can." "I think there's something deeper going on. You used to like me, and now it's like you can't stand me. What did I do to you?" "I just don't like you anymore. You're just not a good person in my eyes." "That's BS, Judith. I demand the truth right now." At this point, Judith's mask was slipping and she was getting a bit frantic. Instead of looking and acting like Cruella de Vil, There was a silence, and then she whispered, "You'd leave that man if you knew what was good for you." And that's when it clicked. Wait a minute, that sounds familiar. Those are the exact same anonymous texts I've been getting. It was you, Judith. Why would you do that? Do you know how scared I was? I don't know what's going on, but it's gone on far enough. Cut the crap. You what, Judith? Tell me, what the hell is all this for? Why are you treating me this way? I can't. Then Miguel's footsteps were getting closer to the kitchen, and we heard him say, "What's going on here?" I heard shouting, "Mom, I swear to God, if you can't control yourself, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." And just like that, Judith turned back to her mean self, yelling at me, calling me all sorts of names and bullying me. As Miguel promised, he escorted her outside the home, calling her an Uber to take her back to her apartment, and I was left there in the kitchen wondering if I was being punked. This family drama was getting more complicated by the second, and it didn't look like it was going to calm down anytime soon. I was scared of what that might have meant for my marriage. So the day of the wedding was quickly approaching, and Miguel, being a rich man who liked luxurious things, was showering me with gifts and buttering me up for the big day. I was still quite angry with him since he was clearly keeping a secret from me, but I didn't mind the gifts. In fact, I was starting to think that maybe the secret he was keeping from me was just a huge surprise he had in store for our wedding, and that I was being paranoid because his awful mother was treating me like crap. Judith was hounding me with texts. She'd continuously ask if the wedding was still on. When I asked her why she was asking, Judith would reply with something rude or snarky, saying something along the lines of, "So that I know whether to drink my sorrows or celebrate, because I don't want you in my life anymore." I was getting seriously pissed off by this point. It was becoming unbearable, and I was actually contemplating disinviting Judith from the wedding altogether. I couldn't take it anymore, so I told Miguel about it. But when I did, he didn't seem too pleased. "Miguel, look at the crap your mother is sending me. Can you believe it?" That's actually pretty clever. I gotta use that. "Babe!" I'm kidding. I can't take it anymore. You have to disinvite your mother from the wedding. I've decided." "What? Bibi, I can't do that. She's my mother, for God's sake." "I don't care, Miguel. She's making my life a living hell, and I can't stand her anymore, and it doesn't seem like she's listening to you, so what are we going to do? This is the only solution." "I think you're being a bit rash, babe. Let's talk about this." "What is there to talk about? Do you love me?" "Yes, of course." "Then act like it. Disinvite her from the wedding. She clearly doesn't want to be there anyway, and I don't want her to ruin our day." "Bibi, you know I love you, but I also love my mother. I can't just disinvite her." "Miguel, do you? Because the way you talk to her says otherwise." "What the hell did you just say to me?" "You heard me." And that's when the argument escalated even further. We were screaming at each other at this point, and it felt like our relationship was hanging by a thread. This drama was spiraling out of control, and I didn't know if we'd make it to the wedding day in one piece. And it was all because of that lady. I was hating her by the minute. So that night, after our big fight, Miguel and I slept in different rooms. I couldn't stop crying, feeling like our relationship was falling apart. But then I had a not-so-bright idea. I thought, if I have to suffer, then so should my mother-in-law. So at 2 a.m. I started spam calling her phone, even though I knew she was probably sleeping. When Judith finally answered the phone, I started shouting and cursing at her, telling her that I was going to treat her the way her son treated her, since that's what she seemed to want and what she seemed to respect. I don't know if it was the sleepiness in her voice or what, but she sounded so sad and defeated, and I couldn't help but feel bad for my bully for some strange reason. I cried and told her that I had always been nice to her, but I wasn't going to play nice anymore, and I'd see her on the wedding day, and that I was prepared for whatever BS she was going to come with, because I was so sick of the constant hot and cold behavior from her. Judith sounded a bit distraught on the phone, like she wanted to say something, but she couldn't find the words. She kept muttering, It's not safe. It's not safe. And I demanded to know what she meant, but Judith refused to fess up to whatever it was she was hiding. Frustrated, I hung up the phone, promising never to speak to her again. A few more days had passed and the wedding day was drawing closer. But me and Miguel still hadn't resolved our issues. We were passing by each other in silence in the house, and it was starting to feel like we were housemates and not fiancés. Finally, I had enough, as if I hadn't already. I couldn't take the drama and BS any longer, so I snapped and yelled. I'm sick and tired of everything. I demand to know the truth. What truth? Cut the crap, Miguel. I don't know what you're talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I overheard you talking to someone in the kitchen some nights ago, and I want to know what's going on. It's bad enough that my future mother-in-law is treating me like crap and acting shady, and now you too? At those words, Miguel's whole face changed. He looked both angry and strangely calm, and it sent shivers down my spine. I'd never seen anyone look so scary before. What's wrong? Miguel, now livid, accused me of eavesdropping on him and invading his privacy. Huh? I insisted how that wasn't fair, and he was deflecting, and I demanded to know the truth. But instead of revealing anything, Miguel just kept getting angrier, and he began breaking things in the house. And not just throwing things off the coffee table. He was smashing lamps against the wall, and the shards were scattered everywhere. I was so scared, you guys. I was stuck, frozen in place as I watched him destroy so many things in the house. And in that moment, when I saw Miguel's anger and violence, I knew that I could never marry a man like that. It was a terrifying realization. I couldn't live my life in fear and chaos. I slowly made my way upstairs, determined to pack some of my most important things and leave as quickly as possible. Miguel was so blinded by his rage and destruction that he didn't even notice me sneaking out of the house. I quietly got into my car and decided to leave, leaving the engagement ring on the bathroom sink. I was crying as I drove to my mother's house. I needed to make sense of everything that had just happened, but I didn't even know where to begin. As I was on my way to my mother's house, I decided to make a call to my mother-in-law, Judith. I needed to let her know that I had finally taken steps she seemed to have wanted all along, calling off the wedding. I was taken aback by how happy Judith sounded on the other end of the phone. She actually said that this was the best thing that could have happened. I was about to curse at her, calling her evil for being so happy at my downfall, but then she dropped a bombshell. Judith told me that she wanted to meet in a private park somewhere close to where I was driving to discuss something important. She told me that when I arrived, I had to leave my phone in the car, which was strange. I was reluctant, of course, considering everything that had happened, but my curiosity got the best of me. I needed answers about why she and Miguel had been acting so strangely and why they were trying to drive me to madness. So I took a detour to meet her in the park, as we had discussed. I waited for about 30 minutes or so, and finally Judith appeared, wearing the biggest smile on her face. She told me that she was so proud of me, leaving me completely confused. I really wanted to throw hands, but I decided to be classy, so I demanded an explanation instead. I told her that this would be the last time I would ask her this, warning her that I would leave for good if she didn't spill the beans, and that's when Judith began to unravel the truth. Bibi, you have to understand that everything I did to you, I did it for a reason. Miguel, oh God save him, Miguel is not a good person. Ever since his father died, we've been through hell trying to survive. We busted our asses trying to come to America. But it wasn't easy. My sons turned to a life of crime, and Miguel, being one of the youngest, was the most impressionable. Whether it was stealing, committing fraud, selling drugs, or becoming pimps. My sons have all done something terrible for the sake of money, and I don't like it one bit. But Miguel, I think he's the worst of them all. He's so ruthless. I tried my best to steer them towards the right path, but they kept choosing crime. My jaw was practically on the floor. Miguel doing crime? Is that where all this money was from? The reason I was so mean to you, Bibi, was because I wanted you to leave him before it was too late. You see, I know Miguel was planning on doing something terrible to you because he's been married 3 times before and all his wives mysteriously died on their wedding night." My heart sank at her words, and my mind struggled to process the horrific revelation. This was beyond anything I could have imagined, and I felt all my hair stand on end. I demanded more details, needing to know everything. Judith's confession had unraveled a dark web of secrets that had entangled me in ways I couldn't understand. I sat there, stunned and horrified, as Judith continued to reveal the nightmarish truth about Miguel. She explained that she suspected that Miguel's crimes were far worse than she initially thought. All 3 of his previous wives had tragically died on their wedding nights, and it had always seemed suspicious to her. It wasn't until the last marriage that I realized it couldn't be a coincidence. Miguel must have been responsible for his wife's deaths. I've been so scared, Bibi, but I wanted to save you before it was too late. I couldn't properly confront Miguel because I was afraid of what might happen to me or you or anyone for that matter. He's so unpredictable. I know you've only been introduced to kind and composed Miguel, but I'm telling you, he's much worse. I didn't want to tell you the truth over the phone or through text because I believe Miguel has all our phones tapped. That's why I told you to leave your phone in the car." She went on to express how sad she was for the way I had found out, but she was relieved that she had been able to save at least one of the many girls Miguel had undoubtedly hurt. I was left speechless, unable to comprehend the depths of Miguel's dark secrets. Judith begged me to pack up everything I knew and loved and move far away, just in case Miguel tried to find me. I revealed that Miguel had become violent back home, which is why I left him behind, and Judith wasn't surprised. She told me that he had always been a violent person, and it was only a matter of time before he turned that violence towards me. 3 years have passed since that day, and I have not heard from Miguel or Judith again. I was relieved to have escaped, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't still haunted by the memories of everything. I couldn't let Miguel continue to harm innocent women, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. I penned several anonymous letters talking about his dark past and warning other women to stay away from a man who fits Miguel's description. The letter was posted in tabloids, newspapers, and on various online forums. My hope was that it would reach the eyes and ears of potential victims, preventing them from falling prey to his deceitful schemes.